Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. You know what? It's your business to kind of keep track of things that are happening out there that are of interest. I've got Howard Berg on. He is the world's fastest reader. Is that right?
That's correct. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad you're the world's fastest reader and not the world's fastest talker, or this interview could be measured in seconds rather than minutes. So good to have you on the program. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I actually live in Dallas, but I grew up in the projects of Brooklyn. And if you ever saw the movie Goodfellas, that's kind of where I grew up. Those people went to school with me, and they were the nice people. So you can imagine how bad the neighborhood was. And I discovered at an early age the safest place to play was the library. Gang kids treat libraries like vampires treat churches. They won't go there.
Yeah.
So I read a lot. And I actually had college reading in sixth grade. And when I went to college, I studied biology. And in my junior year, I got interested in the brain and learning. And I went to the dean and I said, I'd like to do a dual major in bio and psych. He said, you only have 1 year of college left. You have to take 6 science courses a term. Frankly, you're not smart enough. And that's when it hit me. They don't teach learning at work or school. They tell us what to learn and why to learn and what will happen if we don't learn, but don't tell you why you could play a song on the radio for 10 seconds and remember it for your life. And you read a book that matters for your business or your schoolwork, and 10 minutes after you put the book down, you don't know the name of the book and who wrote it, let alone what you just read. And I cracked the code.
So let me just say, I appreciate where you're going, like what you're saying, but I want to actually have a lot. I have a lot of questions, and you'll give one answer to the question if we treat each one this way. So let's have an exchange, okay?
Sure.
By the way, I'm glad you got rid of the Brooklyn accent.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like, I don't think we would have had any doubt where you were from with that. So, you know what? I love what you said about this whole idea that they don't really teach you how to learn, do they? They don't really give you the tools to do that. Elaborate a little more on that.
Well, right now, information doubles every 6 months, and we now live in a knowledge-based economy. And so people in business are struggling to stay on top of all the data they have to know. The whole industry has come up around knowledge management, but nobody's ever really given any thought to how to integrate the information that people base their decisions on with the learner. They've identified the information that needs to be learned and needs to be applied to maximize profitability, but nobody's developed a system for actually getting that knowledge inside of someone's brain. And I found a way to do it, and part of what we could talk about today is some specific strategies people could actually use.
Okay, talk a little bit about that. That sounds great.
Well, you know, you're in Texas. I'm in Texas. We drive at 70 miles an hour on our highways, and apparently that's a suggested speed. I think anyone going 70 on a Texas highway is considered going too slow.
Yeah.
And you're reading the road. You're reading the road in 4 directions, front, back, left, and right. And you're watching your gauges and your GPS, and you're talking on the phone and listening to the radio. And you're still bored. You read a book at 200 words a minute, and you're overwhelmed. And the difference holds the secret. When we're reading the road, we see everything like a movie. Mm-hmm. And when we're reading in a book, it's like someone's talking in back of your head, one word at a time. And so I found a way to turn a movie on while reading, and I'd be happy to share that with you.
Okay, go right ahead.
When the show is over, go find a book you've read and understood. I want to make sure the only thing that could confuse you is how fast you're reading and not how hard the material is. Since you already know it, there's only one thing that could confuse you, your reading speed. And go to the first page of the first chapter, get one of those timers on your phone or on your watch or even an egg timer, and time yourself for a minute. And just read the way you now read to get a measurement of how far you could go. And then take a pencil and just kind of put a little mark where you finish so you know how fast you read in a minute. Now go to the next chapter. This time, I want you to take your left hand and move it across one line at a time with your eye following your hand as quickly as you can comprehend. Keep speeding up till you don't know what you're reading so you find your ceiling. And then slow it back down till your comprehension comes back. And then for about 10 minutes, practice using your hand to move your eyes one line at a time as fast as possible across the page. Go back to where you initially tested yourself for 1 minute and do it again, but this time using your hand. And you'll be amazed. You'll go 10, 15, maybe even 20% further just by that one simple change. It takes about 2.5 hours to teach how to go 100 to 400% faster, but this is actually the first step, and it's pretty easy to learn, and the rest of it I teach in my full program. But we don't have 2.5 hours, so that's why I'm not doing it right now.
Yeah. So who's a typical, what's a typical person who buys your program like? What motivates him or her?
There's actually 4 groups. There's parents. Right now there's a 70% dropout rate in 2-year college and 50% in 4-year college, and they're concerned that their kids will get into school, which they need to get a good job, and they flunk out because there's such a high flunk out rate. Mm-hmm. Then there's the students. Then there are people in business, lots of business people. I've worked with companies all over America. They're concerned about information and how to use it better, and then they're laying people off and expect other people to pick up the slack. And one of the fastest ways to get that done is to have the people who are there learn twice as fast, mm-hmm. so they can make better decisions and have more time to do other things. And finally, there's seniors who want to stay mentally fit as they grow older, and reading's been proven to be one of the most effective ways to help offset Alzheimer's and dementia as you grow older. So those would be the 4 main groups of people that are interested in what I do.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody.
Everybody, yeah. But particularly groups that are pretty large segments of the population as well. By the way, what's your website?
It's Rule Reading, R-U-L-E reading.com. And we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. They can try it risk-free. And I even give them my home number if they need help. I personally make sure everybody learns it. I was a teacher for 10 years, and I still feel you don't just get someone to buy a product, you help them master the product. That's your job.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. Howard Berg, I want to give you that website one more time. Rule, R-U-L-E, reading.com. Why that name? Why did you choose that name?
Because they end up ruling reading. They can take control over information. I think right now more is printed in 1 week in the New York Times than a person living in the 18th century learned in their entire lifetime. But in business today,
none of which is true.
Yeah. Well, that's a different problem. But you raise a very important issue that a lot of people are making decisions based on information they never read. They didn't even know what's going on. They're assuming the people that are telling them what is going on are accurate. And many of them haven't read it. They're going to other people who didn't read it. So I believe in a democracy and in business, it's really important to be informed and make informed decisions not based on other people's opinions but on reality. And the only way you can do that and still have time to do your work is by reading and learning faster.
All right. Howard Berg is his name. Rule, R-U-L-E, reading.com. Might want to check that out. Thanks for being with us.
I appreciate it. I'd love to come on some other time and give you some more tips.
Thank you. When we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com, and you're listening to The Price of Business.